Maybe with the money you saved on private schools, you paid for the new two-sided brick fireplace I saw, which hasn't been legal since 1988.
Go, Phil, go!
How do you know all this? What are you, some kind of real estate agent?
Oh, he's a realtor. There is a difference somehow.
Okay. All right, everybody. My name is Dawn Olson. I am a local real estate agent with Coldwell Realty in Bradley. I am a lifelong resident of Bourbonnais, born and raised here, and I've been in the business for over 17 years working with both buyers and sellers. And my guest today is John DeMarto from Guaranteed Rate Affinity. And go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself, John.
Thanks, Dawn, and I appreciate you hosting this event as well as inviting me to be a guest. I have been doing mortgages for 37 years, all in the state of Illinois. I can do a loan anywhere in the state, but we are concentrating this one on the greater Kankakee area. I work with Guaranteed Rate Affinity, which is one of the top lenders in the entire United States, and they're licensed in all 50 states. So they got a program and product for just about anyone that is out there in any situation that you have. So excited to do this webinar with you. So let's get the train moving.
All right. So just if you're just coming on, we will be doing giveaways about midway through. This should take about an hour. We're going to do giveaways about midway through. And then if you stay to the end, we'll have more. We've got $50 gift cards from Beef O'Brady's, Oliver's Bar and Grill, Steam Hollow Brewery in Manteno, and a bunch more. So stay tuned. We'll do you must be present to win because you must be in the chat. I'm going to give you a special hashtag and a word to use to be eligible for that drawing. So please stay tuned. Okay, so our very first slide here. Let's first talk about how the market is. And right now, this time of year anyway, is pretty much typically slow. And this, right now is no different. It's a little slower. There's fewer buyers in the market. There's less competition. And that makes it a little easier for those that absolutely have to move right now because they're able to have a chance to get their offer in and get it accepted and possibly even negotiate a lesser price than the asking price. So let's go to the next one. John, I'll let you kind of take this one here. This is your neck of the woods here.
Yep. Thanks, Dawn. So anyway, interest rates have been going up crazy here. And they peaked at the end of October, early November, with November 10th being the highest plateau of where they got to. And they actually got up to the mid to upper sevens, keeping in mind that interest rates, big variables that affect the rate are a person's FICO score, as well as what product do they have, FHA, VA, conventional, what have you. So, but at any rate, they are starting to finally go down. And if you go to the next slide, Don.
Yep. This one is where I'd mentioned that there's fewer buyers in the market, which means less competition and fewer bidding wars. And I threw my little memes in here to keep it interesting. No one likes a boring webinar or slideshow. So hopefully I help keep you entertained here. And
Definitely.
again, you have a much better chance of being able to negotiate the price of a home right now. So as opposed to where we were at before, where you had to offer over asking price, now things are a little more relaxed and you can go back to your natural instinct to negotiate. Okay, so we were talking about interest rates just a moment ago, and this slide here is suggesting that in the meantime, while the interest rates are coming down, buy now and lower the interest rate later. Do you want to say anything about that, John?
Yeah, a lot of buyers that I was doing on loans back in September, October, November, I was telling these people that were closing with rates in the sevens that this is not their 30-year rate. That as we come out of lower inflation and rates do come down like they are right now, that we can look to get a rate and term refinance done on their mortgage in the future. I can do those with a no-cost refinance. So as an example, if somebody closed at 7.5 in October, and as the rates come down further as the year goes on, as they are being forecasted to do so in the second and third quarter, maybe we can get them something in the fives as long as they've made at least 6 mortgage payments. So that is definitely something that people will be able to do that were stuck in the higher rates.
It's also become popular to ask a seller for concessions to possibly buy down the interest rate in the meantime as well. What would you like to say about that?
That's a very good point, Don. We do at Guaranteed Rate have 6 buy down features that you could lower your interest rate that is paid for by the seller, not by the buyer, through a seller concession that is negotiated with Don and the sellers. And that will lower your rate, whether it be for 1, 2, or 3 years, by as much as 3%. So let's say that the current rates in the market are 6.5, as an example. In your first year, they would be 3.5. In the second year, 4.5, and then the third year, 5.5 on a 3-2-1 buy down. So they can definitely get a much lower payment, which is a great enticer for somebody to go buy a house, because before that time period is up, they'll be able to refinance to a lower rate at any way.
Perfect. Okay. So what do we do first after we're talking about the interest rates? Well, the first thing is we don't freak out. Keep calm and let your lender and your real estate agent guide you through. So the very first step is to select a lender to get pre-approved with. That is the absolute number one first step. Okay. Moving ahead here. I'm going to let John talk about pre-approval versus pre-qualification.
Yep. So first of all, what I want to tell you about getting yourself pre-approved. Every lender is different on how they handle clients coming in. I can tell you from my standpoint is I'm available from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. and sometimes later if needed. And I work weekends. So basically Monday through Sunday, if you need somebody to help you get pre-approved or answer questions, I am able to do that for you. So that being said, let's talk about the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. A pre-qualification, a lot of documentation is not verified by the loan officer from the buyer. What I mean by that is that they usually take a verbal on the income that the borrower has and a verbal on the assets that they have to go towards their down payment and closing costs. What they do is they do complete an application. They fill in a verbal income and assets in the application, and then they give them a pre-qualification letter saying you're pre-qualified for this dollar amount based on your credit report and FICO score, which are ran, which you can't do a pre-qualification without an application and a credit report. But the difference here is on a pre-approval, I go through the formal steps of verifying your income, pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns if you're self-employed. I verify your assets to know that you have the money that you are claiming you have in order to cover down payment and closing costs. And then I run the almighty AUS, which is a automated underwriting system. I know that could be a foreign language to some of you, but an AUS is the almighty God when it comes to an underwriter. The underwriter literally looks at that and underwrites the file off of the AUS findings. So I'd be happy to discuss that with any of you as a one-off if you have more questions on that. But on a pre-approval, income, assets, and AUS are all verified.
Perfect. All right. So we've got our next slide here. And folks, this is my very first webinar live stream. I am totally winging it here. So I am host and producer. So you get to watch me hopefully not fumble through this. I believe that I have put something in the chat. I have put John's website address where you can go directly to apply online. Is there anything you want to say about that, your website, John, and applying and
Sure,
how secure?
I appreciate that, Dawn. So on my website, first and foremost, we have a secure digital mortgage application. You simply click on Apply Now, and on the Apply Now button, you can go to my digital mortgage application. It's super easy to complete, 10 minutes or less. It's got a lot of drop-down boxes. You complete it fully. Once it's completed, I am notified via email that you have completed it. I then can go in and review things and reach out to you with any questions that I may have on what your application shows. That's number one. There's also a first-time homebuyer guide book that you can download for free that's in there. In addition to that, recent reviews of clients that have used my services. Their testimonials and their comments are in there for you to review on previous clients that have used me. So a lot of information in there. And once again, the biggest piece in step one of any application is to complete a digital mortgage application to see where you're at right now.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So next, real quickly, we're going to tell you a little bit about the different types of loans and down payment assistance programs available. Okay. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about, you okay there? You okay, John?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
So it's a myth. It used to be that you needed 20% down to get a mortgage, decades ago, but that's not the case, and it hasn't been for a very long time. And John, I'll let you kind of talk about that.
Yep, let's click through there. So yeah, it's very true. I mean, in the old days, 20% down was the standard. If you didn't have 20% saved, you weren't buying a house. And now there are several programs that are out there that offer 0% down, which we'll go over in a minute. And we also have low down payment programs, as well as some down payment assistance programs that are out there to help buyers that want to get into a house, stop paying rent every month, get an investment going, and they just don't have 20% to put down. So let's go to the next one.
And I'd like to ask real quickly, I want to know that everyone has the ability, because when we to put submission into the chat, because that's going to be important for the drawing. So if everybody could take a minute, it might be a little trickier on your phone. I'm not sure. I'm on my desktop, so I can see it fine. But if you could just say hello in the chat, that'll let me know that everybody has the ability to do this. Just say hello in the chat. Oh, okay, good. Thanks, Kins. It's my daughter, Kinsey. Thank you. Thank you, Zachary. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Caitlin. All right, guys. Very good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So, hi, Kyle. Okay, awesome. Happy. I feel like I've got company here now. That's good. All right, John. So we will move on to the next slide, and we'll start talking about the different types of loan that are available. I'll let you take that away.
So the first thing I want to say about this one is that this particular slide, Dawn, has more information on it, and I am more than happy to go over any one of these or all of them with any particular home buyer that has questions. There is no cost, no obligation in getting pre-approved and no cost and no obligation on your part to ask questions. So each one of these I could talk 10, 15 minutes on, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to highlight what these are. And then from there, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me on my website, call me, text me, any of the above. But so the first one is a conventional 97. There are 3 programs that fit into this program that are mainly meant for first-time home buyers. One is a Fannie Mae Home Ready. You have a Freddie Mac Home Path, and then you have a first-time home buyers AMI program, which is brand new that we are offering. AMI standing for average median income for the area. That being said, these are programs where you only have to come up with 3% down. The rates on those are better than a typical conventional deal, and the PMI is lower on those. So that's a good program for a first-time home buyer. The next one, the FHA loan, everyone's familiar with that. That's meant for lower FICO individuals. 3.5% is required to be down. That 3.5% could 100% be a gift from an immediate family member. That means that they are giving you the money to cover your down payment, and we go through the gift process. Once again, a one-off if you have questions on gifts. We can go down to a 580 score on those, which is pretty aggressive. The next loan, a VA loan, is for veterans, reservists, active military, previous military, National Guard. This is a 0 down program with no PMI, so that is key there. You could go into a house with 0 money down. I've actually had people get their earnest money back because of the down payment and a closing cost credit. So you can get into a house with no money down as a VA loan. Once again, with no PMI on that one.
And John, real quick, PMI is private mortgage insurance.
Yep. Good point. Yes, PMI is private mortgage insurance that is required on all loans that are typically over 80%. So very good question, Don. So
if you put anything
you,
less than 20% down, right? Anything less than 20% down requires PMI except for the VA loan.
VA and USDA. But as an example, if you had 19% to put down, you would have to pay PMI. Just as a extreme example. The next one, USDA loans. That is meant for low to moderate income individuals. The property's got to be in a semi-rural setting. Dawn's going to talk to you about census tracts that she has seen that USDA loans qualify for. But this is another one that has credit requirements. You have to have a 640 or higher. It has debt ratio requirements of 45% or lower. But once again, USDA loans are 0% down and no PMI. And Dawn, why don't you explain what you talked to me about yesterday about the census for the areas?
Sure. So with USDA, it's an underutilized loan program, I believe. But it is wonderful. It was designed to help develop and encourage home ownership in the rural areas. And it's my understanding that a rural area is considered rural if it has a population of 10,000 people or less. So in Kankakee County, the only towns that are not eligible is Bourbonnais. Bradley's not eligible. The city of Kankakee is not eligible, but you can still have a Kankakee address. Say you're in Limestone Township, you're in Aroma Park Township, but you have a Kankakee address. So there are some areas with a Kankakee address that are eligible for this program. But everything else on the outskirts, like Moment, St. Anne, Herscher, Clifton, all those rural areas, they're all eligible for USDA. And you can reach out to me or John at any time if you have an address that you're interested in and ask, is this USDA eligible? And this is a really great program. Again, it's 0 down payment required and no PMI. And that's private mortgage insurance, which is a premium that's added to your monthly payment. So that would not be there. So that's what's so great. One of the great things about this program. And then, so I'll let you go ahead on about IDA.
Yep. So IDA is the Illinois Housing Development Authority, and that is a down payment assistance program. It offers 3 variations of it. This is also meant for a low to moderate income family. 640 minimum credit score, just like USDA loans. It's a max debt ratio of 45, and it does have limitations on how big of a loan they will do. Once again, that's a one-off if you have questions, but if you can go to the next slide, we can go over the different forms of IDA and the down payment assistance. So DPA, meaning down payment assistance programs, IDA has 3 options. They're based on the purchase price. You can have a 4%, a 5%, or a 10%. So as an example, the most popular one and the one I use the most is the 4% forgivable. On a $200,000 house, you get 4% or $6,000. 4% of 200,000 is $8,000, so they would give you $6,000, and that $6,000 would be able to be used for down payment or closing costs or a combination of both. And so similar to the other ones that have the different percentages, once again, there is a lot of stuff that goes into a IDA loan. And I'm not going to sit there and talk about this program for 10 minutes, but I will tell you that on a one-off, if you have any questions on these, feel free to reach out to me. Once again, call, text, email, hit my website, and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you.
Wonderful. And I do, in the chat, I have put the link for John's website, and I've got his cell phone number in the chat as well. If you want to make note of that you can call or text with any questions. We just didn't want to overwhelm and bombard everybody today with lots of information. And this down payment assistance program has helped an awful lot of buyers in Illinois become homeowners when they thought that they could not be a homeowner because they did not have a down payment. Okay. The second step after getting pre-approved with an awesome lender, an awesome mortgage guy like John, then you have to choose a realtor. And that is really super important. You really want someone that is available a lot. Preferably, I say a full-time agent. That's just because that's what I've always been. I think it's really important to be accessible at all times of day, sometimes at night, and definitely on the weekends. That's just my opinion. That's what you could expect from me personally. I am available. Some people say, well, do you work 7 days a week? Not necessarily, but I am available 7 days a week and evenings too. So I am accessible. And I just think it's really important that you do have a great communicating agent. It can be very stressful for buyers and sellers, and sometimes you really just need a question answered to just move on with your day or go to sleep, what have you. So it's really important to choose somebody that's going to be available to you and that has experience and can give you great advice, like myself.
Just
Okay,
to add to that real quick, Dawn, that
sure.
goes both ways. Not only is it from your standpoint as a realtor, but even after they get pre-qualified, they may have questions about their pre-qualification, or can they qualify for more, and what program am I under? And so those are all things that I also make myself available for. So we really work together as a team to get you
Absolutely.
looking for the right house that fits your dream. And once you find that, then you work with the agent and the loan officer, and we take the steps, which is going to go over right here with you right now, to find that house.
And I'll piggyback off of that for a minute. It is essential. I brought John on today because he's not just anybody. He's somebody that I trust, that has lots of knowledge and experience, has availability. Like I mentioned before, being available to your client is extremely important. And I can't necessarily, I'm going to choose a lender every time that works beyond 9 to 5. If I need them at 8:30 for something, that's awesome if they're willing to do that. And John is, and that's why he's here today. And so just moving forward, it's when you have a team behind you, that is going to increase your chances for the best deal, getting the house you want with the least amount of stress. Okay, moving just a few things just a few, because there's many. But number one, of course, help you find a lender, understand what you're looking for in a home, schedule home showings. I just like to throw a little blurb in there that home showings, we need to give the sellers as much notice as possible, preferably 24 hours, but that's not always the case. Sometimes homes are vacant and we can get in sooner. But just want to manage expectations as to what home showings and how soon you can get in, what to expect from that. Of course, your agent's going to walk through homes with you and gauge your interests. So it's really important to get have an agent that's listening to your likes and dislikes as you're going through a home, just kind of making a mental note. Okay, they really don't like a galley kitchen. They really want an open concept. So it's really important to have an agent that's going to listen and then bring homes to your attention in the future that is a better fit for your needs. The next one, you don't understand now, but lending emotional support during the process. I am 90% psychologist and 10% real estate agent. And you're really going to be happy about the fact that I am 90% psychologist, because this is stressful and there's a lot of things out of your control, and you're going to rely on a competent agent to walk you through and talk you off the ledge and tell you everything's going to be okay and what to expect. The next is writing offers and handling negotiations. And that needs an expert, somebody that can advise you on that particular situation and that particular market, what's the best thing to do for the best chance to get the deal. And that is also very important. The next one, oversee the next steps once an offer is accepted, helping with financing approval. And that doesn't mean the pre-approval we first talked about. That is me assisting, or your agent assisting the lender in the helping you get them what they need. We're all communicating, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, everybody in tune to keep everything running smoothly, keeping track of timelines. You're going to probably do a home inspection, and just all this. It's a team of people that you need and will have, and you have the highest possibility of success when you have a really great team. And then in the end, attend the closing. I personally attend every closing. That is not necessarily the case with a lot of agents. They have a team, or they have other people attend the closing. If I'm going to go through this journey with you, I want to be able to take you through it, through all the emotional, the ups and downs. And I want to sit with you at the end of the day at the closing table. We made it. We did it. I want to celebrate. You're a new homeowner. So that's very important to me. And I think it's important in general. So anything you want to add to that, John?
Yes, that's all very, very good points, and you do an awful lot for this home buyer throughout the process, and it's not just at the beginning; it's all the way till the end. But like you, I attend all of my local closings. Obviously, if I got one down in St. Louis, I don't think I'll be attending that one, but not all lenders will show up at a closing either. And I make sure that I'm there. That way, if there are any fires to put out, or where's the funds at, or, just in general questions, what's this document for? I'm there to not only lend support to the buyer that I pre-approved, but also on the transaction itself and getting it closed and funded, which is the key word. You can't get the new keys until they are okay to fund.
Yes, that's a very good point. The closing is more than just signing papers. We're sitting there and everybody's looking around like, what are we doing? And it's like, we're waiting for this, this, and this. So we're counseling all the way to the last minute of what's going on. And so that's a very good point.
Yeah,
So
and
let's
another
go on.
point I just want to make, there's been times where I've gone to a closing where that particular title company was buried with several closings at the same time, and I picked up the doc package and went over the closing docs with a buyer. Because once again, 37 years of experience, I could explain to them what each and every document was. So that just helps the transaction continue through the process instead of waiting longer time periods.
Great point. And that kind of makes me want to segment into a couple of things, John, where this would be a good point to interject. Here in Kankakee County, we don't necessarily utilize attorneys very often. You are certainly more than welcome to have one. They will be there from the beginning to the end, and they will attend the closing with you. Here in Kankakee County, and I keep saying Kankakee County because anything north of Kankakee County, they use attorneys, and they kind of look at you cross-eyed if you tell them that you don't have an attorney. So it's an option. It always is an option, but it's really an option here in Kankakee County. So I just wanted to kind of interject that thought while I was thinking of it.
Very true point.
Okay. Ready for the next slide, John?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So just to go over this a little bit, what your agent expects of you. Yes, here we go with rules again. Absolutely, positively must be pre-approved with a known and reputable lender before asking to look at homes. And I put this in the slide. When I say known and reputable lender, that is every bit as important in the contract and writing an offer process as anything else. We as agents know who works really well in getting their loans done, communicates well. So if I'm your buyer's agent, I am saying to you, do you have a pre-approval? You're saying yes or no. If you say yes, I'll ask you who, and then I'll advise you from there. I'm not going to, tell you you can't use a certain lender, but I'm going to share with you if I think you may have a challenge with the current lender because of experiences agents have had, maybe negative, that could affect you when you're submitting, because you have to submit a pre-approval letter with your offer. And so that's very important, to have a known and reputable lender for the listing agents to be confident in advising their sellers on whether or not this is a good offer for them. The next is, this is pretty common, especially in the world of Zillow and Realtor.com, where a lot of buyers feel that when they're requesting more information about a property, that they think they're going to get the listing agent, and they do not. Zillow and Realtor.com and all the other websites, they are selling your inquiries to other agents, so you will not get the listing agent. So back to the point of using what it says here, to use only one agent in your home buying journey, you want to have one agent showing you homes and not several. We all work professionally together and cordially, but nothing gets feathers ruffled more than a buyer agent hopping. So please don't do that. And the next expectation is to only look at homes that are in your budget. Let your agent advise you as to whether or not you should look at homes over your approval amount, and if so, by how much. It will all depend on the current market. So this means we just come out of a crazy market. And if someone's pre-approved for, let's take for an example, if someone's pre-approved for $200,000, and like the market we just had where people are bidding over, my suggestion was to actually, if they're approved for $200,000, then we were actually looking at 180 or under, anticipating that in order to be competitive, we were going to need to offer over asking price. If you are looking at homes and want to make an offer on a property that is at or just real close to your pre-approval amount, you're not going to be in the position in that kind of market to offer over to be competitive. Things have calmed down now, so now we're now more in a space where it's become more neutral. There are still, if a home's really popular, then you may still get some multiple offers, but for the most part, we're back to a kind of normal market where you can come really close to the asking price, and some are even negotiating under the asking price now. And lastly, and this is not all the expectations, but this is some of the highlights, give as much notice to see homes as possible. 24 hours is ideal for most homeowners. I did mention that before, unless, of course, the home is vacant, then there's a little more flexibility there. So, John, anything you want to add to that?
Yes, there is. On your bullet point number 3 on staying within your budget, I just want to make a point there from a lender loan officer perspective, and that is that if I pre-approve a potential home buyer for a certain dollar amount and that pre-approval was not based on a specific property, that means I had to estimate or guess what the homeowner's insurance bill would be for a house they do put an offer in on, as well as the real estate taxes. So as an example, say that $200,000 house, I looked at something in Bourbonnais and I plugged in $6,000 for real estate taxes, but they ended up buying a $200,000 house not in Bourbonnais and the taxes were much lower, say $4,000. Well, that then allows me for them to get a larger sales price because their debt ratio will allow for that. So once again, if you have a pre-approval that's not property specific and you want more house than what your pre-approval states, that's where your agent and your loan officer work hand in hand and say, here's a house, can you run the numbers on it? Once I have you in the system, I can tell you really quickly if you qualify for a different house based on that house's characteristics. So once again, any questions on a one-off on what I just said, but your pre-approval, once again, is got several factors that come into play in order to make sure you qualify for the debt ratio on the program. So that is a key point on trying to find something over your pre-approval amount. Obviously, under always works.
Perfect. And I put your cell phone number up here, John, for anyone to take note of real quick. They can call or text you anytime with any questions. Okay, so I'll hide that.
Perfect.
We'll
Thank you.
So you're welcome. Step number 3. So we've gotten the pre-approval taken care of. We've primed you. We've consulted with you about what's expected and what will, what the next steps are. So now the next one is search for a home. Let's go house hunting. All right.
Yippee!
Yippee. Well, let me go back because I was really making these short and sweet because I watch webinars and I'm just like, ugh. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to make this short and sweet and just talk about each thing, at one at a time. So searching, we kind of talked about that. We're going to give notice. We're going to look, your agent will advise you on what prices you should be looking in according to the market. An agent can set you up in the MLS to get listings a microsecond more or before Zillow and Realtor.com, but we still are faster. We will always be faster. So definitely utilize that. Talk with your agent. I'd be happy to help as well. But you can get set up directly in the MLS, which is where Zillow and Realtor.com, they pull from our MLS. That's where they're getting it. So we are the foundation of the entire system. So we are the number one go-to. So you can be confident in that. And then we'll move to the next one here. After we have found you a home that you're interested in, then it's time to make an offer. And we go into the different parts of making an offer. And did you want to say anything before I move to the next slide, John?
Not on this one.
Okay. So the anatomy of offers would be sitting down with your agent, and we're going to go over comps. Comps are comparables. Comparables are homes that have recently sold. And after this hot market, comparables were like what has sold in the last week or what has sold in the last 48 hours. It was that tight, like what's going on? So before, in a normal market, it was about, we'd look back about 6 months and see what the market is. Solds are what the market is. That is what buyers are willing to pay. Homes that are currently listed but not yet pending or contingent, those are still yet to be seen. And then we talk about we're showing comparables, we're advising about the price, if this house is in line with the market value. Then we talk about contingencies, and there are several different types of contingencies. Contingencies are the items of the contract that are outlined and must be met in order for the contract and the deal to move forward. And the first one right off the bat is usually a mortgage contingency, meaning this buyer or these buyers must be able to get a mortgage in order to buy this home. And I'll continue with contingencies, but do you want to say anything immediately, John, about a mortgage contingency and what goes into that?
Well, when you have an offer going in and there's a mortgage contingency date on there, the biggest thing that a home buyer has to be aware of is that when your loan officer then asks you for documentation in order to get that loan submitted and approved so you can meet a mortgage contingency, that you don't sleep on that request. You get on the ball and you get the documentation that's needed in.
Very good. Okay. So we're still sitting down at the table. We're talking about the price. We're talking about contingencies. Another contingency, you can make the contract contingent on getting a home inspection, which is advisable. This is one of the biggest purchases you'll make in your entire life. And I will say, you may have heard other people in the last 18 months buying homes, and one of the ways that they were being competitive was to waive the home inspection. They were waiving as many contingencies as possible to be competitive with other buyers that were fighting for the same house. So I would like to go on the record as saying that it is highly advisable that you get a home inspection. And usually your agent will have a couple, if not a handful, of home inspectors that they will recommend and that they work with closely to help you. So another contingent, it could be contingent on your attorney. It can be contingent on you having to sell a house first. So there's a lot of different contingencies, and every one of them will be discussed with you at the time of writing an offer and explained to you. Then earnest money is a very an important part of the contract process. Earnest money is like a good faith deposit saying, I'm very serious about this. I'm putting money down. Historically, it's been on average $1,000. When the market was hot and heavy, and again, to be competitive, more buyers are putting more skin in the game. So it was at least $5,000 easily. Just more skin in the game. I'm serious. You don't have to worry about taking my offer and then me backing out. And as far as earnest money goes, you are not in jeopardy of losing your earnest money unless you blatantly back out of a contract, not due to any contingencies not being met or anything like that. Or, again, if your home inspection does not thrill you and you're not satisfied and cannot come to an agreement with the seller, you will get your earnest money back. And then next, negotiate the price in terms of the sale. So again, just kind of wrapping up the offer, explain to you everything and how this will be presented to the listing agent and the seller. And then we just, say a little prayer and hope for the best and put our best foot forward. So anything on that, John?
Yeah, I would like to add a little piece on this bullet point number 4. The buyers need to understand that where a true professional like yourself comes into play is the negotiation skills you have, because a lot of times you have to go back and forth with the seller's agent in order to meet the terms that will get accepted that satisfy your buyer's wants and needs. So you are definitely representing the buyer and their best interest, and this negotiation piece is a key to the whole process.
Perfect. Okay. Getting close, guys. We're getting close. So the next slide, what happens once your offer is accepted? Yay, you won. So like I mentioned before,
Yippee!
Yippee! So like I mentioned before, you would turn in your earnest money, and that means that you will either, we can wire earnest money nowadays. We're kind of getting away from personal checks, but that's still an acceptable form of putting down earnest money. It's made out to the listing office, and the listing broker holds it in a special escrow account until closing, and that is deducted from the amount you have to bring to closing. It can be, like I said, a lot of the times it was a personal check. It can now be wired, or it can be like a cashier's check, which is starting to be more preferable with a lot of listing brokers. So the next step is you and your agent will schedule the home inspection. This is not required by the lender. A lot of buyers think that it is, but it is not. This is solely up to you. And again, it's highly recommended. And just let me know, John, if I'll take a breath here, and if you want to jump in anywhere.
On the home inspection, once again, it is highly recommended, because there's a lot of things on a home that a home inspector digs in that you will never see on the surface that could make or break that purchase for you. And it's key because, once again, it's one of the biggest investments you'll ever make. From a lender's perspective, I've had several buyers try to send me the home inspection. I do not need to see it. That is for you and the inspector and your agent. And a lot of times things might show up on a home inspection that you might end up negotiating a credit for towards your closing costs. And so a home inspection is highly recommended unless you are a handyman and you know what you're looking for. So that's a key piece in the whole process, is getting this piece done.
And that makes me think of something, John. A lot of people, buyers and sellers, think, well, sellers will say, well, we'll just give if the carpet's not great or the flooring's not great, we'll just give money at closing for carpeting or flooring. That's not a thing anymore. Buyers cannot walk away with cash for an allowance for flooring or anything like that. So, but the way that could be done is what John just touched on. You can negotiate a credit, and it's a roundabout way of doing the same thing, I guess, is you can negotiate a credit that's in the form of a closing cost credit. And that just means you're getting a credit towards the cost of your closing costs that you would have had to bring yourself, but now you don't. And so the money you don't bring or don't have to bring anymore because of the credit, you can now use for your flooring if you want. So it's a roundabout way of doing things, but just know you cannot get cash for any type of allowance or repairs at closing. They're either going to have to be fixed or in the form of a credit towards your closing costs, and that's how it has to be done. Where it gets tricky is where the credit needs to be more than you are allowed to have for closing costs. Anything on that, John? Just probably agree, right?
It depends on your loan to value. So like on a On a conventional loan where you're at 95%, I believe the max credit is 3%, but like on a FHA, you can go up to 6. So it depends on the program specific and the LTV that you have. Once again, that's a one-off that if you are looking to get a closing credit from the seller, I'd be happy to discuss based on your program and your LTV what you would qualify for.
And LTV is
Loan to value, another good point. Yes. So, as an example, if you had a $90,000 loan and it was a $100,000 purchase price, that would be a 90% loan to value.
Perfect. And so, what I had a thought and it passed, but we'll just move on. Let's see. So, with that said, moving on, seller will schedule repairs if applicable. If repairs have been negotiated, then these are all the different things that could be going on one after another or simultaneously. And I think I skipped right over number 3. After the home inspection is satisfactory, then your lender will talk to you about ordering the appraisal. Is there anything you want to say about that process, John?
Yep. I've gotten to the point where I will not order the appraisal, even though my loan's been submitted to my processing team, which I'll go over that in a second. But the appraisal doesn't get ordered until the buyer has, quote unquote, approved the inspection, which means that a home inspection was done, they reviewed the results, and they are either happy with how it turned out or they negotiated a credit to cover what they weren't happy with. And they then say, yes, we're ready for the appraisal. So that is a key point as well.
Perfect. Thank you. So then the seller, if there are repairs that were requested, then this is starting to be organized on the selling side, if applicable. As John mentioned before, now one of the steps in this whole process is you will, after the home inspection, you tend to just have the psychologist hat of the realtor now to just kind of walk you through stuff and stay in contact. But you're going to notice that a lot of your communication now is with your lender, and your lender is going to start requesting, your lender who has a processor, who has an underwriter, that's his team or her team, and they are going to start asking things of you to verify all different aspects of the loan process, like, your income and bank, all sorts of things. So it's really important to be on top of that, ask for help when you need it, and you'll have a team of people helping you get that taken care of, including myself. Sometimes some people just aren't very techy, and that's okay. If you need something scanned or whatever, that's where your agent can come in and assist with that. The nice thing is John is actually in my office at the Coldwell Banker location in Bradley off Route 50. So what's really nice is John is also very helpful with that, where you could come into the office and he has access, of course, to scanners and everything. So if you have the documents and that he needs, you could come in and he can assist you with getting those uploaded and everything. So it's really nice to have somebody right there when you need them to assist if you're not tech savvy and email and scanning savvy. So anything on that, John?
No, that's all very true, because a lot of people don't have access to a fax machine or a copier or a scanner. And when they have tax returns, pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements, IEDs, homeowners insurance, all the documents that you need for a mortgage application, a lot of times they'll just bring them in a folder and hand them off to me, and I'll make the copies, and then I'll scan them into my own email address, and then I'll upload them into your file. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. And then I don't even want to talk about if you're self-employed, been divorced, got child support, rental properties.
We're here to help.
Bigger and bigger. But
That's right.
A couple things on a couple bullet points here. The homeowner's insurance, as soon as you get an accepted offer, you've passed the inspection and the appraisal's ordered, you want to reach out maybe even with who you have your auto insurance with, and get a homeowner's insurance quote. You don't bind it. You don't pay for that policy until the closing day itself, but you do need to get a quote from my processing team. Let's talk about what my processing team consists of, because once I submit the file to them, they will be reaching out to you. So I have processors that work on the loan. There's 2 of them. One of them before the loan gets underwritten and approved. She works with me and you to get the documentation prepared to send to the underwriter, and she gets everything she believes the underwriter is going to ask for up front. The more thorough a file it is, the cleaner it comes out of underwriting. Once it goes to the underwriter, this is the person who's got the power to approve the loan based on the program that the loan was submitted under. Once again, FHA, VA, Jumbo, USDA, whatever it is, each one of those loan programs have specific guidelines that have to be met. The underwriter goes through those guidelines, see what was already in the file. Anything that it is short of, they issue you an approval and request those items, which are called conditions. I then have a post processor who works on nothing but clearing the conditions with you. Once all the conditions have been cleared, it gets sent back to the underwriter, and the underwriter then issues number 7, the almighty clear to close, which every
Best 3
processor.
words in the whole world.
Yep, it is. Clear to close means that the lender has signed off on your approval and its conditions, and now it's getting ready to go to the closing table. Before it goes to the closing table, we go to number 8. You sign a CD, which is a closing disclosure. There's 2 of them, a preliminary closing disclosure, a preliminary CD that is required 3 business days before you actually close to go over the costs and fees of the transaction with your loan officer. And then once everything's verified, then we got the final CD, which is on your closing day, where all the costs and credits are all applied to the loan. So if you got seller credits, you got real estate tax prorations in Illinois, whatever it is, then your homeowner's insurance binder and your down payment, all the costs and credits all get added together, and your final disclosure is then presented to you at the closing table.
Perfect. I wanted to add one little blurb about the homeowner's insurance. John and I both get asked a lot, well, where do I go to get homeowner's insurance? Our number 1 recommendation is if you have a vehicle and you have vehicle insurance, that's a great place to start, because you may be eligible for multi-policy discounts. So why not try to go with anywhere that you already have policies, car, boat, whatever. So that would be advisable to start with where you already have insurance for maybe your vehicle. So, all right, perfect. Okay. So we call these the 10 commandments, things not to do before or during the home buying process. And I know that graphic's a little small, but John, I'll let you take this one away too.
Yep, I'm not going to go through and read each and every one of these, because obviously this presentation is available to you, but I'm going to key in on some ones that have made or broken an application that I've dealt with in the past. Number 1, after you've been pre-approved and you go out looking for a house, don't change jobs. Quitting your job, starting a new job, that could kill your application altogether. That's number 1. Don't go out and buy a new car or new cars. That literally just happened to me this week on a client trying to get pre-approved. He went out and got him and his wife a new car. Well, their debt ratio skyrocketed and they don't qualify anymore. So, it's just sometimes it's common sense. Same thing with your credit cards. Don't go out there and go haywire and start buying things before your purchase. Furniture that you put on layaway, or, washer and dryer or refrigerator, big appliances that are going to dramatically increase your balance can affect your debt ratio. Let's see another one right here. Don't co-sign for anybody. That one came up also on one of mine that killed an application that was already in and approved. and he went out for Christmas and co-signed for a Harley Davidson for his son. Knowing that his son was going to make the payments, he didn't realize that that payment now is on his debt ratio, and it took him from a high-end debt ratio already to not qualifying, and it killed the application. Just very simple examples of things not to do. And one of them that's not on here, Dawn, but I definitely want to make a point of, and you always hear the words cash is king when it comes to buying a car or buying something. Cash is king. Well, in the purchase world, the word cash is like a naughty word. Underwriters don't like the word cash. If you can't source a deposit in your bank account, and it was a cash deposit, the underwriters will subtract it out. And when I say source, you got to be able to show where that money came from and be able to document it. So cash is not king. As a matter of fact, it's actually hurt several applications where people had mattress money that they call hidden in a can in the backyard. If you have money that you're going to use towards a purchase, get it deposited into your account as soon as possible.
And I'll piggyback on that. Just to clarify, John doesn't mean that if you're an all cash buyer and you're not getting a loan at all, he doesn't mean that cash isn't good, because cash is fine. If you're all cash, it's a moot point. You're not even dealing with the lender. But John's speaking specifically, if you're getting a loan and you have cash somewhere, you're going to have to, you can't just deposit it, and you're going to have to explain where that came from. And that's very difficult to do. You're going to have to come up with
it. Literally is. I mean, I had one as an example that actually ended up closing, but so many hoops had to be gone through. A guy had received an inheritance on a relative that had passed. We got a copy of the death certificate. We got a copy of the last will and testament. But he took the check that he had gotten from the inheritance and he cashed it at his bank, and then he held on to it as cash. And then when it was time for him to put an offer in, he deposited that cash. And what do you think the underwriter said? What's this cash deposit from? Well, there was a time gap in between there of 3 months from the time he cashed that check to the time he deposited it. So we had to jump through a lot of hoops, and we had to go up the line. And since the amount of cash deposited was the exact amount of the check, they allowed it. But if it would have been different, there was a high likelihood that they would not have allowed it. So there was something that was even documentable, but there was a time frame in between. So
perfect. Okay. So this concludes our slides. I would like to mention, again, I'm going to show you John's website. I do have it. I'm going to go ahead and see if I could paste it in here real quick. Pasted it into the chat. Hopefully that comes up as a hyperlink for you. This is, if you're interested in seeing about getting pre-approved, you can do it directly from John's site. If you're somebody that is not comfortable with doing it online, just go ahead and text or call John. He'll meet with you in person. He can work with you one-on-one if you're not comfortable doing it online. Also, while you're navigating John's site, he has on the first page there a first-time home buyer's guide from a lender's perspective. Okay, so you can download a free ebook. Let's see. And then you've got, let's see here. Technical difficulties. Here we go. Okay, well, I thought I was showing you. Did you see your website come up when I was talking, John?
I do see your ad in the comments.
Okay. All right. I was trying to add to the stream. Okay. So I'm going to go back for 1 second, and I'm going to share this. And in there, this is his first-time home buyer's guide, and that is accessible on the link that I gave you in the chat. You can apply here, or you can meet him in person. And then right here is where the downloadable ebook, Buying a Home from a Lender's Perspective. And I say a lender's perspective because I'm going to show you my home buying guide that's accessible on my website. I'm going to put that link in the chat real quick.
Very nice.
Let me
Good
get to
information on
that.
both of them.
Yeah, so you've got, I'm gonna hit there we go. So you've got that. You can actually flip through it. It's like magazine form. It is downloadable and printable, so you can do that as well. If you don't have access to printing and you want me to print it out for you, just text me or email me or call me and I will get you a copy of either John's or mine or both. That's fine. And if we happen to have any sellers on here, I've got a seller's guide as well.
Any questions,
Thank you.
reach out to Don or I.